Okay, that's better.
Oh, damn it. Okay.
Oh, maybe it's, there we go. So anyways, gateways, corridors, pass-throughs. I want to ask you guys all questions here with regards to what are they and what's their purpose? Does anybody have any thoughts about when you hear those terms, what are they and what's their purpose in the landscape? Anybody have any thoughts?
Well, usually gateways or corridors or pass-throughs are usually an access into another portion of the landscape.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, they're portals. And so they're important for a couple different reasons. Let's look at what the purpose is here. So for one, they aid in orientation. They act as landmarks. So as as visitors to a garden, we want to be able to direct traffic, lead the eye, lead pedestrian movement throughout the landscape. So there are means of wayfinding also. Um, and with regards to, I don't know if you've heard the term semiotics, but that's the study of signs, like signs and symbols. And a lot of times these are subconscious things that we just recognize. So like, for example, if you see path lights in a yard, subconsciously we're so ingrained nowadays to where we understand that, oh, we should probably follow the path lights because they're leading the way along a pathway. So they're a comforting element for us. So same thing with gateways or openings in the landscape. They're signs for us to naturally want to go to. So again, directing pedestrian movement and traffic, these are important. And at nighttime, as you well know, it's something that we need to highlight somehow so that people know where to go. So, and there are also choice points. So, as Sean had mentioned, it's a transition between outside and inside. They're from one area to another. And this is usually a positive thing. It allows the visitor a chance to make the decision whether to proceed forward or not. So daytime, it's usually not that much of a big deal in terms of you can use, it's a lot easier to see and visualize what's going on into the next area so that we're not fearful to enter the area. Um, but at nighttime, this can be a challenge. So the idea is to basically help to highlight the next area so that it doesn't seem, fearful to enter into it. So why are these things important? And it comes down to understanding, we need to understand our environment that we live in. And through our lighting, we're able to do that. So if we have a lack of understanding, which that basically is a form of stress, or we call it's a distressed state. We're feeling anxiety, which leads to mental fatigue. And mental fatigue is when the mind is taxed and challenged. If you've taken any of my class, well, my other class that I teach is lighting design awareness. One of the things we talk about is mental fatigue, and that's where if we're confused by what we see in the landscape, especially at night when we're illuminating things, that can build up stress and confusion, which is not good. We want our time in the landscape to be joyful, pleasant, comfortable, and something that's easy to facilitate, as a visitor. So understanding the space and the people in it helps us to feel oriented and confident. So where we want to explore. And exploration is another key part of understanding. People naturally want to explore as long as they feel comfortable. So that helps in that state. Um, and you can see here, I wrote down, it says to understand requires storing, using, evaluating information. That's what the mind is doing. So it's a basic human need in our functioning. So it's important for us to provide this understanding through these visual displays. I already talked about exploration as part of understanding, but what's involved with exploration in a lot of cases is mystery. Mystery is generally a positive thing. It's an emotional motivator. So if we're traveling and through a landscape, whether it's day or night, a lot of times, if there's an element of mystery, it makes us want to further find out what's there, as long as it's safe. So those are the reasons why these elements are important. And if we look at, let's say, gateways and partitions, I'm going to show you some examples here in a few minutes. Um, Partitions divide a space or an area, and gateways are the openings in them, just so you understand the difference there. Partitions are like hedges, fences, rows of trees, it could be walls, any other form that causes like a separation between one area and another. Openings, they permit an easy visual access and free movement of the area that is normally, more restricted. So here's an example. If we look at, daytime shot, you can see here, here's an opening in between. This could be considered like, this would be like a gateway would be. Here's the partition, is this hedge, and here's another section. So again, if we're looking at this, obviously in the daytime, it's much easier to figure, okay, well, that seems like it's safe enough. There's still some mystery there of like what's around the corner, but we want to, at nighttime, we'll consider this a little differently as well, because obviously this is all going to be more in darkness. So how do we illuminate these spaces to continue people moving through these areas? Here's another one. You can see here's a natural gate or a metal gateway. There's a hedge on each side. Again, those are the partitions. One first section, next section that will lead us through. Here's a typical little arbor, like a rose arbor. Same thing. This could be considered a gateway or a portal into the next space. Here's between a building. Now this is a little deeper. If this was really deep through here, you might consider this more of a pass through or something along that lines, like a corridor. But in this case, it's showing one area here, next area behind, and how it leads through. And if you notice these in the daytime, how the lighting is, it's dark in here, which could make it a little scarier, and then illuminated on the other side, which helps to draw you through that challenge area, if you will. So pass-throughs and corridors, these are elements in the landscape that are basically passages. They're extended pathways that are, again, deeper or longer that we have to travel and maneuver through. And usually you'll find these passages are protected somewhat. So you'll find they're either surrounded by taller plant materials on each side, so it feels confined somewhat and somewhat protected. So you can see here in these examples, here's a longer pathway, corridor, portal, so for transition, but see how it feels protected? You're surrounded. Here's another one, even though this is more open, it's just basic framework that you follow through like a pergola. But same thing. So again, how do we, when we're looking at these during the daytime, you start to think about, well, let's use this for an example right here. We can come back and look at all these photos in a minute, and we can start addressing how would you illuminate the space at night and why. What we need to bring in what's important into the scene or the next space. And do we want this more of a transitional zone in between? So maybe we do soft lighting off to each side. Maybe it's down lighting. that's sporadic, that thick, that it's softer, and then we illuminate something stronger at the backside on the back end of it. So the next room, if you will. These are things to consider as we're illuminating these spaces at night. If we uplit all of each one of these posts all the way through, then it might be too strong, too dramatic, and therefore takes away the attention from the next space. So that's why it's more important to use these corridors, these areas, to keep them more subtle as approach, and then put more of your emphasis or your focal point at the back end of it so that it draws you through the space naturally. Here's another one, obviously much more heavy construction and brickwork and such, still open, but feels very protected. It's along, here's the next space down at the end again. So it's more of a pass through, you know, you could do, how would you guys like to illuminate in something in this space? I mean, how would you address this? Because you can get pretty creative here with the brickwork, obviously. But again, if you put too much attention onto the brick, let's say you're illuminating these and making it very dramatic, that could make this more of the concentrated focal point versus whatever's at the end. Again, considering what's going on as a designer, you have to determine what the emphasis is. What is the focal point in these different spaces? So anybody want to throw out, how would you maybe, illuminate some of this area here for safety and for interest so that we could get down to the end?
Uh, in my opinion, I think,
Hey, John.
hey, Mark, hey, everybody. I think some nice subtle light and through these columns. These columns are really interesting. But like you said, I think the main focal point, I'm trying to lead their eye down to the end.
Yeah.
And so well, I would not overlight inside there, although it's very cool architecture. And you could highlight it, but I would be very careful with the amount of light used. And then make the focal point at the end to make that intriguing and mystery, kind of a mystery, intriguing part of the design.
Right. Good. Anybody else want to comment or any thoughts? Okay. Actually, let's go back. Let's look at this one. Anybody have any, you can see here now, this is obviously a daytime shot, but we've got these hanging pendant fixtures in here, which is kind of fun. It's interesting. And that made me enough lighting for this space in through here, but I'm always curious to hear, what are your thoughts? Anybody else towards the columns, towards the overhead and the plant growth, towards the side pockets? How would you address this?
You could do some soft lighting up the sides just to get some of that texture on it, but I wouldn't go crazy with it. I would use some very subtle.
Right.
Because I think those hanging pendant lights are going to be probably quite enough light coming through there, but at least it would give you a texture going both ways.
Sure.
I think that's a great idea. I would get rid of those pendants.
I almost would too, but 100%, because I think they're going to give off too much light.
Yeah, a lot of glare.
And look at the end down there too. You've got the fountain at the far end. I don't know if you can see that in this small picture, but
yeah, because you definitely want to light that. That would be the focal point.
Right, draw the eye through. Hey George, any thoughts on what do you see in this? George?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
There he is. I was just curious. I mean, because you see a lot of these different things in different parts of the country here or outside the country. I mean, what have you seen or any interesting ways to approach this type of a design in here?
I do a lot of that. I do have a lot of archways and things like that to do, trellises and such. I like the lanterns. I try to acid etch or sandblast the glass so that you don't see the light source. Makes it a much softer light. We put them on a dimmer,
Nice.
and we can control the amount of light. Does a really great job. You really can't do much else with that because the columns are too close on the pavement. And you've only got what appears to be about a 4 to 5 foot, maybe 5 foot pathway pavement.
Right.
You don't really have enough room to do any uplighting in that. It's too thick to come down through it, which I like to do. But yeah, I actually, that's probably how I would do that with a hanging fixture. I would also tie it off from the sides so it doesn't swing because we get a lot of wind down here. We may have hurricanes.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But and again, the fountain at the end, like you mentioned, yeah, I think it's a nice look. I really do. I don't like the glare of the individual candles or the lamps,
Glass. Yeah.
because that does take away from it. Your eye goes right to it. But you can soften it by by acid etching the glass.
Okay. Good.
Nice.
Any other thoughts? Anybody?
That's an awesome idea, George. You always come up with those non-glaring ideas, and had a privilege on hearing you and other classes that I've been in using different paint and things like that. Very cool. I love it. You know, my first instinct is to go, well, get rid of the glare, and yours is the same, but keeping the fixture, especially if the customer loves the fixture, you know, and to keep the fixture there is great if they love it, but then now combat that glare with the etching, I think is a great idea.
And the dimming.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
dimmer on everything.
Yeah. It looks great if you do that. By the way, if you acid etch or sandblast the glass, you really never have to clean it. Never looks dirty.
That's why you're the guru, George.
Hey.
That's for sure.
Hey, well, I got another thought just to throw this out and tell me what you think. What if you kept that a real super warm colored light inside the lanterns and doing like George said with the frosted, glass or whatever, and then maybe popping in some cooler white or something on the plant materials on the outside or whatever, or at least down towards the fountain, that offset of color. Anybody like that type of approach?
Oh, sure.
That
Absolutely.
would look good too.
Yeah, it would really make that green pop and almost glow in a way, and you'd get some good reflective light off those leaves, right? Am I right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is great. These are all good ideas because again, everybody will approach things a little differently, and it's kind of fun. I like to hear everybody's thoughts on this. So yeah, feel free if you have interesting ideas or whatever, just throw them out because this is what this type of class is for. It's for we want to have discussions and hear different ideas. That's the point. So
And Mark, one more thing. If you can't frost the glass, frost the light bulbs, frost the lamps.
Oh
and
yeah.
take that glare away. At least you have something in your idea to
Yeah.
The client says, "Oh, I love them." Oh, well, fine. Let's use some frosted lamps. It'll be better than a clear glass.
Right. I agree. Excellent. Okay. Let's
Well, I'm switching over to my computer, so I'm
yeah, no problem.
joining on one and hanging up on the other.
So I guess let's look let's go to this one. Here's another one. A different type of pergola, arbor overhead. Any thoughts on this structure? And now it's kind of the same thing as a last one, a little different, but would you do, you know, I guess one thought would be is because there's so many posts and this thing's pretty lengthy. Would you illuminate each cell like between posts? Or would you skip a section and so that it's more, you know, there's more contrast between sections?
What if we downlit it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Downlight through the center or offset to each side. You know, the outside where it's, let's say it's on these beam sections here where maybe it spills out here, maybe another one spills out here, you know. Or would that be too much light? Again, I'm not sure what the span is here.
Talking about downlighting, Mark?
Yeah, well, that's what was just brought up. So
Yeah.
the thought was, is do you do a single downlight in between, like the cell? Here's
Yeah.
one cell, here's the next
Yeah.
cell, the next cell, you know, and so on down through. Do you put a single downlight up in there? Or do you come off of like each side? Maybe it's,
Mark, how tall are those trees?
you know, I don't know. I found these pictures on the internet and I just pulled them just to use as examples. I'm guessing this is probably 7-8 foot tall. You know, probably, yeah, 7 or 8 feet, I'm guessing. The height.
What you could do with little MR11s, you could put them on the inside of the tree as high as you could get them on those trees on the side, the lemon trees.
Yeah.
And you could bring them down through the tree and you could create shadows inside.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That would be a lot of fun. Be something different. People wouldn't expect it.
Right.
That's awesome.
That is
awesome.
You'd probably want to uplight the trees too on the back side of the hedge so you don't see the fixtures. And if you could get inside those trees and come down through them with these little MR11s, not too bright, that could be really cool.
Yeah.
Now, I used to work with a landscape architect too. He was a major, I guess, he was a fellow of the Landscape Architects Association. Now, he was famous for doing that kind of an LA look. What he would do with it is pathway lights, these rectangular pathway lights, very soft across the pavement. He wouldn't alter them either. I mean, you naturally think of doing one across, one way, one another. His take on it was to keep them on the same side and just wash across every so often. He liked that look and he kept it very simple. You know, it wasn't my thing, but that was his, and he was very well celebrated in the landscape architecture world. And he would do things like, and he would have me do things like that. But I would really look at the uplighting of the trees on the outside behind the hedge, at least that, and coming inside if you can with MR11s.
Sure.
I like that.
Is that, are you talking every tree, George? Down
Every tree.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Looks like there's 3 or 4 trees on each side there along this
Especially
side.
getting that shadowing. There's nothing like that pattern. And George, you do that all the time. It's absolutely gorgeous, like artwork on the ground. It's amazing.
That's what that would be. And you'd actually have to put an uplight on either side of those trees because it has to work from one side and the other as you're walking in and walking out. You won't see the fixtures.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Even that would be elegant. And you'd have some reflected light. It's not going to be bright.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to be to code or anything. And you know, you can go crazy. You know, the other way everybody would do is go up in the cross members and downlight. Well, everybody's going to do that. This will give you an alternative way of doing it. So whatever you think.
Very cool.
Yeah, it would be fun to play with.
Yeah,
It would.
All right. Excellent. Thank you.
Oh, one more thing.
go ahead.
As I'm looking at that too. You could take that little MR11 fixture if they wouldn't fit in the trees and pick which side was the main view. Maybe this was the main view, or maybe walking the other way is the main view. I don't know. But you could hide it up in that cross member and just come across like the landscape architect would have done it. Instead of doing it from the path, you could do it from the top down.
Mhm.
And, you know, you'd have a pool of light, maybe another one, another one, another one. You could create the pattern you wanted. That could be cool too. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep. Nice. All right, let's go to another one. Kind of the same thing, a little
Mhm.
different.
That's sweet looking.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be fun to light, just to, how mysterious and intrigue you would create with that.
Right.
What is that? Just like hanging grass? Is that like Louisiana or some sort of?
I don't know if
That's
it
what I
almost
thought it
looks
was,
like
John.
honeysuckle or something.
Yeah.
Or it's hard to tell. It's a vine of some sort. It's dense, a little denser. You know, maybe it's wisteria. That could be
Mhm.
interesting. I bet you that, yeah, if that blooms, can you imagine during those times of years having all those blooms up through there? That'd be
Amazing.
kind of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Cool pictures, Mark.
Thanks. Yeah, I got lucky. I just started searching randomly. And
Mhm.
so here I did this section, you know, again, daytime observation as we look at, you know, some of you have seen this scene before, but if we're talking about gateways and pass-throughs and partitions and things like that, you know, if we look at this, so you got this bank of trees here, this bank of trees right here. This could be enacting partitions, and this is our gateway, obviously. But the same, all these concepts apply, you know, day versus night. So again, leading from one area to the next area, you know, these are things to understand, at least psychologically, what's going on. Why are these important? Why do we need to lead people so that they feel comfortable, you know, and safe and secure? And these elements help to, you know, solidify that. And the other thing too, as we talk about this, when we talked about semiotics and signs, is people need to remember things. Let's say you're at a brand new landscape and it's a large property. If you don't remember certain elements in the yard, you may feel like you're going to get lost. So landmarks are important so that people can remember, like, oh, I remember, oh, the white gate is over here. You know, that will help to lead them back to safety again, you know, if they feel like they're getting lost. So here's another example. Again, look at this little pocket space here. You've got this shrub hedge or these shrubs that are acting as partition. Here's your path, your gateway through into the next area. Here's another one, a different element on each side. There's an actual real gate in the back. So it's interesting how they use, you know, the landscaping like this, and you can create pockets like this. Each one of these can be an individual space that maybe you create a little differently, but this transition through these areas, you know, how do you pick up these features so that they're easily understood at night, you know, from going from one space to the next space. Another pathway, here's a like kind of a moon window type gate structure. Again, how would you illuminate something like this? Anybody want to throw out ideas here? Because this is not only a nice architectural piece, but do we put our emphasis all on this, or do we consider this space versus the next space? You know, how would you approach this?
I would love to downlight if it was possible. I love that rock structure and all of that plant life on the left side.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some moonlighting if possible there. Obviously, I'd want to put some emphasis on the gate. So, you know, that's your safety, security, entryway.
Mm-hmm.
When it's real, you know, a lot of bushes that are kind of overgrowing and a little bit without creating too much glare. I think the best option, in my opinion, is trying to downlight some way.
Mm-hmm.
You're
'Cause-
right on, John. That's the
Yeah.
way I do it.
Yeah.
Hey, John, this is Chris. I'm wondering, I like your down. Are you thinking about downlighting in the foreground or the midground, which would be as I see it, the gate or the background? What were you thinking when you were thinking downlighting?
So
The
I
whole
would
thing.
downlight on the pathway, that rock area. I would bring
Right,
moonlight
right.
there, and then a subtle highlight on, not from a downlight, maybe some uplighting on the gate. of
Okay.
some sort. I'd have to, it's kind of hard to see what's there, what's available, but
Yeah, yeah.
put a little bit of light on that gate to show there's where you're going, but also add that beauty with the moonlighting on all that texture is gorgeous.
Yeah, it'd
Right.
be awesome if you could bring some of that texture at the rocks on the left.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
Well, here's now remember, if let's look at this compositionally too. So let's consider this our foreground space where the rocks, the plants, the pathway. Midground will be this gate, and then the background's that distant garden or the next space.
Yeah,
So
good. Yeah.
if let's say you do a downlight out of this at the top, spills down, it'll pick up the gate, but it's not strong enough to where it would compete if you did more uplighting in the background, draw
Love it.
the eye through this whole space, but it still picks up here. Versus if let's say you uplit this gate so much, you may be competing with the background space
Yeah.
more. How do you define between the two unless you have that level of intensity of your light source?
Well,
Right
could
on.
you,
Something to
if
consider.
if that tree is over the gate or that vine, whatever it is with the white flower there, if that's over the gate, couldn't we do some kind of like pendant light there
Yeah,
to shine down on that gate so
Yeah.
you're not
you can
losing it's
hang it
just
right
solid.
up in there, and plus this is arched in here. It's hard to see, but it's a double wood arch.
Oh,
So
I
it looks
see.
like it's about 18 inches across.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I
So
didn't
you
even,
could probably fit a hanging light up in there somewhere that
that's
spills
brilliant.
down
It'll
softly.
give you some of that texture like George was talking about before with the
Right,
vine coming down too, but give you highlight the gate as well.
right.
I love that. That would look awesome.
I
Yeah.
bet a lot of you, like me, have seen arched trellis. Is that what that's called? A little trellis? Or I don't know. Arched
Yeah,
thing.
arbor, or yeah, more
Arbor.
of an arbor.
I've seen them double, but what really is beautiful about it is they've created that circle with the gate.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Yep.
interesting.
Yeah.
My eye right now, as I look at the picture, I know it's two-dimensional and there's other angles, etc., but my eye just goes right to the circle. Once I figured it out, it wasn't right in my face, but it's like look again kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I see the foreground. I think John had mentioned the downlighting, and then Sean had mentioned maybe a pendant on that, but then maybe some uplighting behind it. Just I'd be wanting to finish that circle after dark. Somehow draw attention to that circle,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which I think all of y'all were saying.
They use those types of, they call them moon gates or moon, they use them as windows or portals to look into to feature certain other elements, and like Japanese
Ah,
garden or Zen garden.
Okay.
So yeah, they're kind of fun. I love them. All right, excellent. Any other thoughts, or do I move on? All right, let's move on. You see probably more things like this. This would be like a pass-through area, same
Wow.
type of thing, or a corridor in the landscape. Section of lawn. You've got plantings on each side, and then your backdrop here, it's curving, which this creates the mystery, the interest to want to explore further, because now your eyes following this, and it's like, wow, what's behind here? It makes you think, that's where psychologically people want to be led, as long as it's not in complete darkness. So how would you address something like this area to help lead people and make it feel safe.
I would definitely do some moonlighting down on there, but you also want to bring some of the textures out on that rock wall towards the back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And some of the plant some of the plants you want to bring some textures out in that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, the idea, I mean, leading the eye or pick what is the focal point or what would focal points be now? Some might, well, here's a little fountain piece, looks like a maple or something. Here's another urn or type of pottery piece, but again, if we did something back behind here, these trees, maybe you uplight the fronts of these trees to kind of, again, your eyes led to that point. So then you'll want to follow to here. And then once you get up here at the top, then you'll find a new element to lead you to around the corner to the next level.
I'd agree, because my eye actually gets drawn to that wall in the back.
Yeah.
You're talking about uplighting, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you could do maybe you do some downlighting onto the wall and that piece in there, that would help. You could do something soft in here that helps to lead, maybe some downlighting here just to spill over the plantings and onto you can make it your way through the scene.
Mark, you kind of asked the question that I was going to ask Sean. When you thought of the wall, were you thinking of uplighting or downlighting it?
I'm not sure because it's hard to tell from here, Chris. But I mean, I like I know when we did Sterling, the SLO4 there, you could actually probably even wash it.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very subjective because it's just so much, and we don't even know where the path is leading to. So,
but you don't want to do too much there, and not with anywhere else either. So it's.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, because if this is just a transition area, like a pass through that leads you to the next space that you're supposed to go, you don't want to overemphasize. Let's say if you make this like the focal point so much, then it may detract from where you're ultimately supposed to go.
Exactly.
Hey, Mark, before you move on, so here's where my silly mind goes sometimes is I look at all the tree trunks and I see a lot of sticks. Nothing wrong with that. But then I don't know if you can move your cursor around, Mark, and I can direct you. Yeah. Okay. Go to the left, to the right, in the middle. Right there. There's that weird thing, tree that goes off in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'd be something to lift the eye or not, because it's the one thing that I can see that isn't straight like the others. It's just interesting. Could be stupid, but
no. I mean, let's say you wanted to. This is just my perspective. Let's say you wanted that to be your emphasis right there. You highlight that, and then you maybe either backlight or don't front light any of these trees so that the eye draws through to this point.
Exactly. Yeah.
You do downlighting all in here, your eye will go automatically there.
Until your prospect tells you they're cutting it down next week.
Yeah.
Oh, I love your tree. Oh, that one's coming down. I hear that.
We hated that.
I know we hate it. That's the other thing I hear. Oh,
yeah. Oh my goodness, that's fun.
Nice. Yeah, these are fun. Again, knowing the whole site and what you're working with, the design intent, what is it that you work, what's the purpose of the space? How is it being used? Is this a transition area or is this a destination point up here? Yeah. If it's transition area, then you need to find a way to pass through. You're still led to a certain section and then continue on. So these are the overall things to think about. And then you can start worrying about, okay, well, if this is the case for this space, then I need to apply softer light. Then you can start looking at, well, individual applications based on areas. Do I use a downlight? Do I use a soft wash? Do I use uplighting? Don't start with like, oh, I'm going to light this tree. I'm going to put on 3 uplights on it, work the other way. Start with purpose always and the intent of what.
Well, that's a great point, man. Yeah. That's good stuff, Mark. It's so true, because a lot of times you can pick something that you like and all of a sudden you're overlighting and it becomes garish and you're missing all the beauty in the foreground, the midground. And I think there's plenty of beauty here, and you could
Oh,
very
sure.
much overlight it, but you could do some key components, that Japanese maple. You could do a real tight beam spread from a tree, hitting on top of it, a subtle light underneath it, just little things that would make you kind of stop and go, wow, that's interesting, that's amazing, that's beautiful.
Sure.
But it's still leading you through to your end focal point that you're emphasizing. So, but that point you just made is, I think a lot of us lighters have been there and made those mistakes. You know, like,
Yeah.
oh man, I would put 4 lights on that tree because, I
Yeah.
want people to, get to that place, but you forget about all the other.
Yep. No, it's easy to do because you get excited as lighting guys, we get excited. Oh, I could illuminate this so awesomely. I could do this, this, and this. But we have to kind of take a step back and always remember what's the purpose, what's the intent of this area, this space, and keep those things always in mind because that will give you the overall composition will work out really well that way. So good.
Hey, Mark, by
Awesome.
the way, I miss this, so thank you for doing this for the
Mhm.
members.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
awesome, man.
Hey, Mark, got a minute?
Yes.
Okay, I'll throw a monkey wrench into this.
All right, do it.
Now, I work a little bit differently than most people. The first thing I start doing when I'm looking at this is I don't look at what I want to light. I look at what I have to work with. And I look at a scene like this, and I start placing up lights in my mind. And if I can get the up lights looking pretty decent, I don't want to see them. I'm going to go behind the trees, like I think John said, and silhouette these trees. Mark, I think that was your idea too. I wouldn't directly uplight the tall sticks, the tall trees. I'd go back in the foliage and I'd look at one light uplighting maybe 2 or 3 trees and start seeing if I can get maybe light to dark to light areas of these trees just glowing. I'd have to trim, I'd have to prune, I'd have to create a chimney for those lights to go up through, but you wouldn't see it in the back. I'd get that done. Now, obviously you want to light the wall and you want to light the fountain, you want to light this understory, but you look at the direction of what's happening here. You go to the very back where it's winding around to the left. And if you can, you set that up as a direction of your downlighting. So you'd come across in angles of that. So it would be coming from left to right and maybe left to right here. And even if you went right to left, it would be going in the same pattern, in the same angle. I think what you could do is come across all of this and light across the, the bird feeder, whatever, the bird bath, the maple, and come across the rock wall and the grass and the other side, and set it up in a direction, in the same direction as where that goes down the back way. And then you start looking at, okay, I've got that pretty well done. Now, what are my features that I want to look at? Do I want to accent anything else? And that's kind of how I would look at this.
Interesting.
Hey, George, Chris,
Yeah.
can I ask you a question?
Of course.
So, we all see that the stone inlays in the grass. So if I understood you right, you would have some uplighting, silhouette and tree trunks. I think I was grasping that, and then some moonlighting that would come from different angles. But your main thing is to guide the eye. Well, first thing, I think the stone path is, you would make the grass the path, I guess. This just
Well,
inviting them to traverse around the corner. Is that correct?
I don't think of it that way. I think of it as looking at it in the daylight, and then how can I have it transition so it almost looks like that, but in a different perspective?
Gotcha.
I'm trying to match what that landscape architect has done. And I'm not trying to, I mean, look, it's a different approach. And it's not right or wrong. It's a different way of looking at it. And I want to look at what the trees, how the landscaping naturally looks, and how I can bring that back in a certain way, in a unique way. And rather than directing traffic, I kind of want you to feel just a movement in the downlighting. It's going to be up high. It's going to be at the top of a 40-foot ladder. So it's going to be hidden and shielded. So you're going to come across with angles coming, and you get the scene done. And then you kind of look at your plan and you say, okay, this is what I've got. How do I want to shape it to the design that you all are talking about? It's like, okay, here's what I can do based on the landscaping I've got. Now I want to shape it to the design. And that's how I think. I'm always looking at what I've got to work with.
Thank you.
Coming back.
Nice,
Thank
George.
Yeah, that's interesting because again, these are different approaches and I like it, it helps your mind to expand, obviously, because you're just not doing it one way. There's many ways to do this, which is awesome. I love that.
I just like to see what nature gives me, what the landscape architect has given me. Work with that to its best potential with what I can do best. See what it looks like on the plan, and then come back and say, okay, how do I shape it? How do I make it better? How can I accent something? What is this going to look like? That's how I think.
And George, I appreciate that. Appreciate that, because there's two things I struggle with the most. And that is getting in my own head, thinking I know what I want to do and I don't live there, or vice versa, getting into my client's head too much and letting them guide me too much and not executing the principles of lighting design. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. And I do that by looking at what I've got to work with. And then I know I'll find out what the client wants, but I don't design to that. I look at what I have to work with, do something and say, this is the best I can come up with. And then can I shape it to what they want? That's how I kind of work it. That's how I work it. Does that kind of make sense?
Oh, it does.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Love it.
Awesome. All right. Let's jump to another one.
Oh, I remember this one.
Oh, I remember this one too.
So again, if we're being a resident or a structure like this, what's most important, like we talked about this, and like for front yards, typically it's leading people to the front door. So assuming this is the front door here and they happen to have a natural gateway or this arbor structure that's built here to frame it in, that's going to help us to direct or become. Now this could be more of a focal point because it's part of this entryway in a sense. Any thoughts, or what do you see here? Or maybe you're using two elements, maybe you're picking up this fountain first, then this front area, but just the concept of trying to lead people to the front.
Well, let me do this one first because I'll just give you an idea. First thing I would do is come back at night. I'd turn on all those coach lights. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And see what I had to work with. And, by putting those on dimmers, I use that a lot. And it kind of depends on the budget you have to work with, how complicated you want to get. So I look at that at night and I'd come back and put it on a dimmer and make them really happy. They go, oh, this is really cool. Didn't know I had this. Well, that one coach light over the little patio with the two chairs is actually enough to sit out there. I don't know why you would, but it's enough. Now, if all you did was that, just dim the damn coach lights. Let the warm light spilling out of the inside windows. That'll add a lot of glow to it. It's very pretty. You have that little oak tree. I would be at the base of this bush. There's 3 bushes in front of the oak tree. I'd have an uplight there and the ground, go up through the center of that tree, maybe prune open the inside of it a little bit. That by itself, one light, a par 38, 30-watt par 38. God, they would love it. You could get up inside of that and I could do 2 downlights and just come back and light the understory and just keep all the lighting in that little patio. They freaking love it. If that's all you did, hey, you got a winner. The people would love it. What do you need to do more? Well, maybe something at the front door, but I'm sure they've got egress lights there somewhere. You can't see it. You know, how do you light that little fountain and that little thing in the middle? I don't know. Can you add pathway lights up and around? Sure, you can. But if all you did was that tree and you did that tree well, you could have a winner with one light. It's my thoughts.
Yeah.
Mark, I have a comment.
Sure.
I've learned a lot from George over the last 2 years of our relationship. And I saw a photograph from Gambino project he just finished a week or so ago. I am growing more and more, I don't know if it's resistant, but to putting lots of light on the front of the home, a typical home like this one, which looks like you got the front door and you've got the 2-car or 3-car front load garage facing the front. They pull in and in 10 seconds, depending on the windows, what they see from inside the windows inside the home, their view's done.
You got
Everything's about, go ahead, George.
No, I agree with you. You got that. It's right.
Yeah, everything is about, typically in a typical home, the windows that face the back of the home are the rooms that people spend time in after dark. Master bedroom, master bath, great room, family room, TV room, kitchen, sink, etc. The windows that typically face the front are rooms they do not spend time in after dark. Now, this is could be an enigma because they got that little sitting area. Could be office study or something like that. But something I'm always asking my client, are you using the space after dark? Because if they're not, if they are, then I'm going to think about illuminating that space as they sit there. If it's an office on the other side of those 2 sliding glass or French doors, then I'm thinking about them sitting working late and looking at that tree. But I light everything from the front for them. And what I saw that Mike Gambino did is exactly what George said, is control the existing lights. Because what I see in this setting is an old kind of, forgive my misnaming stuff, but I see like an old cantina or an older home. And I just met with a client a couple days ago. Met with them today. And the home was built in the 1900s. Well, the home had no lighting on it when it was built. And so the first thing I asked them is, why do you want lighting on the front of it at all? You bought this home because you're a traditionalist and you respect that. Why do you want lighting on it? Guess what? They did not. So then we went to what George said, dimming and controlling some existing coach or lantern type fixtures to create that gaslight warm look, and then just build something around it. Am I saying that right, George? I think.
Absolutely. Use what you have, spend the money where you can do some good, which is on the back side. And that tree, it's, you almost can't overlight that oak tree because it's 30 feet tall. And you're wasting half of it. You just go up through the center of it. That's the focal point of the landscape lighting. and the house is as it is, and welcome home.
Mhm. Good.
If you want some pathway lights, though, if you need it for people walking up, you can think about that.
Well, here's a couple thoughts. Look at the color of the concrete there. It's so white and bright. If you had, like you said, maybe a couple downlights out of, I think that's an olive tree. I don't think it's an oak.
It is,
Either way, it doesn't matter. But I think you'll get a lot of indirect lighting that spills out. I mean, you should be plenty of light to see to get in.
Mhm.
I would think, unless you did a couple, maybe you do 2 or 3, maybe you could do path lights out here too. One here, one over here, one here or something, if it was that dark, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, just something so simple, and the client's gonna go, that's it? Yeah, and take a look at it, they'll love it.
Interesting. Anybody else? Any comments? I know there's a lot of guys on here that maybe aren't speaking up enough. I mean, I hope we're not running over anybody. If you have comments, throw them out, or any questions. Okay. All right,
Well, I'll give a quick shout out to Tyler and Andy because
Yeah.
they're in my region and they deal with these same kind of homes I do. And 99% of them have side load garage with windows that no one looks out of, a formal dining room that no one looks out of, maybe an office, and then a spare bedroom that no one looks out of at the front. And what drives me a little crazy is 2 things that I see online all the time is that people are blowing out the front of the home for no reason when people see it for 5 or 10 seconds and then they're in their garage and the show's over.
Mhm.
I get it if the client wants to show off their home. I understand that. But for the most part, they don't know we are their guide and you're wanting them to invest dollars where something that enhances their life. And that's the windows that face the back typically.
Mhm. Sure. No, good
Yeah.
point.
But
Good.
dimming those coach lights, you are enhancing it because
Yes, sir. Yes,
it's
sir.
gorgeous.
You're correct.
Well, I think it's gotten back to too many people focusing on lighting up architecture and not lighting up anything else that's around it.
Mhm.
Correct, Sean. I agree.
And what would you do anything with that pergola there just to guide people towards the front door?
Yeah. You got a sconce right there by it. You got
Oh
plenty of.
yeah, I see it.
there.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I don't think you need it, and I'm sure there's something there that we're not seeing. Gotta be something.
Probably.
I don't know. I might pick up something on that structure. I mean, just me personally, or maybe you do something maybe you backlight this. See, there's a little palm in here in this
That would look
pot
nice, sure.
against
If-
the wall. That could
if you
be
have power.
interesting with a silhouette in there or a warm glow. Just something to kind of give this a little added pop so you know for sure that this, not that this isn't, you can figure it out, but I don't know.
Could you do an uplight that might get some of that cross patches from the pergola onto that wall?
Yeah, I mean, that's a potential. I mean, depending on the angle on each side, like if you were to wash up through, I'm sure you'd get some shadowing or something across the top. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it'd be fun to play with for sure. Depending on what look you're looking for.
Right.
So,
I'd
Um,
like,
go ahead.
one thing I'd like to say is early on when I started doing this and I would do a reveal or a nighttime adjustment, the first thing that I noticed was I didn't address the sconces or the coach lights. And I learned really quick, it'll ruin any type of lighting scheme you can put up. And so part of, what we do is addressing coach lights, any outdoor lighting that they have, no matter what it is, and getting them on timers and dimmers and all of that. And there's plenty of markup there because most of the time, and I love when you pull up to a home and their lights are all on, because they need timers and they need dimmers. And George, you bring those little things that a lot of people don't think about. And it would, and I never, I would, to be honest, I didn't even think about what you were thinking about. In other words, you know, I didn't think about going, let's just really not light too much, but maybe just the landscape, and then really address the coach lights because there's plenty of light there for the purpose of getting me to the front door.
Yeah.
So it's just this discussion and the way you pros look at it is just so invaluable, and I appreciate it.
I agree, John.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this whole thing with the study group is that we, you know, everybody can throw in their ideas and thoughts, and I'm telling you, everybody's going to walk away with something they didn't think about earlier, which is I love that. So I see a lot of chats on, or there's some chats that are here. I'm not going to go through and read each one, but it's something right now. But one of these days, I'm going to have to get an assistant to help go through it. So that we can keep, you know, obviously keep things going. But if there are important questions that you put on the chat that we did not address or something, then shoot that out. Feel free. Now we're at the point of it right now. We're about an hour in where normally we're supposed to stop. I do have more slides that show more of like examples of nighttime lighting of some of these different elements. If you want to stay on, I can just show you these photos if you want, or if you want to just call it here, because this was great study just in this itself. I
Let's
loved it.
go. Let's
All
go.
right, keep going.
I'm good, man.
All right. Well, if anybody's got to drop, just go ahead and drop, but I'll just real quick. I wanted to just show, you know, nighttime photos that I pulled together from different places. Again, same thing. So again, here you can see in this little photo, a little gateway with a lattice structure around it. Now, this one actually is more of like an art piece. It's not even a real gateway. This was just an aside garden that it was just a way to do it as an art piece. So this again, downlight here, you've got two soft wash lights on each side, just to highlight this piece within the space. Here's another typical gateway, but look, notice, okay, you've got a single downlight right before the gate. So it's highlighting the gate and it picks up the pathway, but see how now it's darker behind. How does that make you feel? Anybody?
Too bright for me. It doesn't
Make
give you,
it
it's
feel
not really
like-
inviting. It's really creates a mystery, really creates, I don't know, like you don't want to go through the gate.
Right. A little more drama there with that, because again, it's darker behind, so you don't know where does this lead? Should I go through there? Again, choice points. So here's another one. Same kind of thing. But notice here, little shed in the background. Maybe this wasn't an ideal area to go on a side yard. Again, just a single downlight, but to feature that, whether it's important enough to feature or not, I guess depends on the space.
Looks like an MR16 7-watt.
Yeah, I know, strong.
60.
Yeah.
But I understand the reason behind it. There's a step there, it appears, so it's a tripping hazard. But I always feel like these little areas really need to be low key, just enough light where you can
Yeah,
see
soft.
and
Right.
I agree.
bring you
Yep.
through.
Way
Yep.
to go.
This one, another one, nice structure, path leading to it. But see behind, let's look at it from composition, you know, foreground, midground, background. It's illuminated enough and back behind it to where it's like, well, this is interesting. Curiosity sets in. I want to pass through, continue on.
You can thank Andy Perry for that one.
Oh, nice. There you go. All right, now here's another one. I'm going to show you two. Here's one, gate closed, gate open.
Yeah.
So what is that? You know, let's look at, all right, gate closed. Again,
Yeah.
same thing, foreground, midground, background. It's illuminated back there, so it feels like, okay, probably comfortable enough to lead back through there safely.
Yeah.
But again, when it's closed, what does that tell you psychologically with the gate closed? You know,
Tells me to stay out.
The dog
yeah,
can't
maybe
get
it
out.
makes you, right? But then the question comes in is like, would that make you want to still go through it because
Oh,
of the
yeah.
way the background's lit, or does it make you? I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
I think the door's a little goth, like a little like
Like a dungeon?
kind of, yeah, it's kind of more like but I'd go through it. I want to
Yeah.
know what's spot back behind there because the background's lit. I want to know something's back there and I want to go.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Or if you have a homeowner, if the garage is back there or something, you wouldn't mind going back at night.
Right. So psychologically, see how these things play. The
That's
gate,
beautiful.
you know, subconsciously, it makes you think, well, maybe I'm not supposed to go through there because the gate's closed. You know, so that's general. But again, because it's illuminated, then now it questions, well, maybe it's okay to go back there because it's illuminated, and maybe, you know, you start thinking different ways. So let's go back to here's the other one now. Gate open. In
This is from the other side.
Yeah, that's
right.
cool. That's cool.
But now doesn't that create curiosity and intrigue? Like, ooh, I want to follow those steps
Oh, yeah.
in
Yep.
behind there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mark, I kind of think of it from my perspective, which is the previous picture.
Yeah.
While inviting the eye
Right.
past the gate, if I was, for safety concerns, if I was just driving by, while I would be curious, it's not a picketed gate, so it's not very inviting like that. But if I was leaving the residence, in the next picture, with the gate open, I see a sense of safety that all the lighting designers done an exceptional job of lighting the steps so I can get out.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You're
Sorry, wrong way. Okay.
I like how all the risers were in the shadow and the runs were lit. I like that because it
Yeah.
really amplifies that, hey, there's steps here, even
Mhm.
though they're probably similar stone, right? And what I see a lot, you all probably have too, is where the rise. I know with path lights, like you get up to the second one, it's kind of hard to do all the time, but I like that mostly the risers are in the shadows and the and the run is lit, so it tells someone who's leaving that this is not a ramp to leave. There are steps.
Mhm.
Correct. Yep. Contrast in there. That's good.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
it
Thank
all
you.
blends together, then it's hard to maneuver, especially at night, and older people for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, here's another one. Just another arbor downlight, but still lit behind. So shows you another way of doing things like this. A little softer, a little
Yeah.
more pronounced behind, so it helps to draw the eye through.
That's nice.
Yeah. But I guess we could say in the midground, foreground, they have downlighting, then they went with uplighting in the background, which I like the contrast.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Now
Whoa.
again, gateway partition is the walls, obviously, but again, not direct lighting all over the gate, but more the columns. But even look at the coach lights; it's that warm, almost like
Yeah.
they're probably flame. That's kind of interesting, but
Yeah.
lots of lighting back behind, so it feels safe enough to go beyond and draws you up through there.
Makes you wish you could be there.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Quick comment.
Yeah.
See the hot spots on the front two columns?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's being done by bullet lights.
Correct.
If you'd have done a rectangular flood with a 60 or 90-degree MR16
Mhm.
with a diffused lens, and you wouldn't have had that. Now, where they aimed these two were wrong. Look at the one on the right. See the hot spot where they aimed it?
Yep.
It's hitting at the bottom. If they would have backed it up and hit the top, then you're actually wasting half the light, even with the
Mhm.
rectangular fixtures. If you would do that, you'd have an even wash all the way down and your eye wouldn't pick that up. And it's just something to think about when you're doing columns like that, because,
Sure.
and you can practice with it. You'd probably be, 18, 20 inches away low coming up that column. With a 90-degree MR16, you could probably get up as close as 8, 10 inches. You'd have to play with it, but it would be an even wash all the way up.
George, you're saying you don't always have to be back so far, but tip the daggone fixture back. Is that correct?
That is correct. And you're aiming at the top of
Yep.
you're wasting half of the light, but it makes
Wouldn't-
a very soft, very even look.
Would you go with
Gotcha.
maybe like a 2700 instead of 3000 there?
Wouldn't matter which color, but I would prefer the 2700 for that because of the color of the stones.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That looks like about a 4000, but I'm just guessing.
Hmm.
That looks like a neutral white.
Yeah.
Now, look down through that. Now, again, you're looking at a photograph. The two lights, the two lanterns, perfect intensity, okay?
Yeah.
The trees actually, now it may be the exposure, but the trees going down through the driveway are just a little bit bright.
Yeah.
Now,
Yep.
if it's not the photograph, hey, it could very well be. But I'd be start looking at knocking it down just a little bit. Very well done.
Mhm.
But just toning the whole thing, softening the whole thing a little bit.
George, you think it's if the exposure is right, are you thinking it's either overexposed or would you do less fixtures?
Well, it wouldn't be less fixtures. I would be
Okay.
dimming them because it's very evenly done. I mean, it's elegant. It really is.
Gotcha.
But I would, it's too much. It would be.
I'm wondering if while they're
Soften the
trying to hit the pines that are 80 feet tall,
whole-
they
Mhm.
aren't. I'm wondering if while they're trying to hit some of the taller landscape, if they're not, hot spotting or the foot candles are brighter at the bottom. Could that be the case? Possibly.
Could be I'm not there. But
Yeah.
you'd have to see it. But
Yeah.
honestly, this is where, this is the difference. As my friend in the restaurant business said, between chicken shit and chicken salad, it all comes from the same chicken. You can make the difference. You can do something a little bit different. And you can do it with a dimmer, or you can actually walk through it with some flat black paint. And you can
Yeah.
start just massaging it where no one else will go that extra time. Soften it out a little bit, get the intensity you want. And if they're tall trees, don't bother it. You actually have to do it one by one and look at it. And that's the difference. That's the kind of thing I wish I was able to show you in person what it would look like. But it takes a little time and not that much. But for me, I'd soften the front entrance, bring the whole thing down a little bit, and just gently soften the look.
As you soften the front entrance, it automatically elevates what's behind it, so you can soften that too.
Aha. Yes, it does.
Aha.
Well, Ellie needs to have George out at a project. We can all come see what George would do.
I know. I'm ready to go.
I'm ready.
It's a different way of looking at it, guys. That's all.
Yeah.
Just a little different way of looking at it.
Very nice.
Oh,
All right.
one of the things, if you ever have to light a building or light a wall, this is a good way to do it. Think about it. See those what I was telling you, aiming the fixtures at the top of the column. Well, the first thing you do, you tell an electrician to go out and light this building. Well, they're going to put the spot right in the middle of the building, and then you'll see the hot spot. If you'll tilt that thing back and waste half of the light and aim it at the top of the building, you'll see the whole thing come back very soft. It won't be as bright, but it'll be very even all the way across. And that's the kind of look that I'm trying to do.
Yeah,
Perfect.
nice. All right.
Hmm.
Another pergola. Downlighting passing through each side.
I don't think I would have done as many lights. I like the down lights, but I think it's too many.
Mm-hmm. A little strong.
Dimmer.
Yep. But see
Or
how,
dimmer.
again, yeah, because you've got every cell. So it does now look at the level of illumination there. It's pretty
It's
much.
on, it's every cell on both sides.
Yep. Yep.
But again, dimmer would look great.
Yep. You're
Yep.
right, George.
Yep. Okay. Here's another. This one's a little
I
more.
love that one. I really do.
It's different.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I was foreground, midground, background, but it very
Yeah.
interesting the patterns on in through the center there.
But it's
Look at
very
the shadows on the
inviting to go through.
house. Look at that. It looks great.
Yeah, it's very inviting to go through.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody hiding in there.
Gorgeous.
There we go. All right, let's go. Here's another corridor shot.
It's gorgeous.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Beautiful.
How are they doing it?
That's awesome.
This is probably, well, there's a couple up lights in here, but down lighting, you can see the
Right.
shadow, the dappled patterns of the leaves.
That's how you do it.
Yep.
I would have done a little bit more on the steps to highlight the step a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit.
Yeah. But again, through the court, remember we talked about corridors, you want ideally to lead somewhere if this is a passageway. And you've got this through the table with the umbrella that captures your attention, draws
Awesome.
you through. Yeah.
Who mentioned the steps being dark?
I did.
And
Done.
oh, hey. What if you went up inside the trees and cut some of the limbs away?
Absolutely.
That's the trick.
Yeah. 100%.
Nice.
I've seen that one.
Yeah.
Oh, George Winterling, I think.
Yeah. Another nice
Same,
corridor
right, George?
or space that, again, you've got it feels, confined because of the trees on each side, which is nice. But again, leading right down the gateway and then the backdrop at the very end.
And I like the light up through, I like the light up through the trees in this instance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What Kelvin did you use, George?
God knows. That was color corrected. No, that was metal halide.
Wow.
Old metal
Wow.
halide. And
Nice.
we changed it from the old style mercury vapor to metal halide. They wanted more light, and that's what this was all about. They did a lot of parties. This was in Italy, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. Valentino was the clothing designer that owned this house. It was in a little town called Cetona, Cetona, in Tuscany. And it was, there were Etruscan tombs on the property. It was absolutely beautiful villa, gorgeous. And we were able to get inside of those trees, up inside, and we were using 250 watt metal halide. And it was a color corrected metal halide too. And 175 watt down lights, because we were up 75, 80 feet in the air with some of these to get these distances. Yeah, I'd like to show you how to open up an inside of a tree and get that look. I mean, these are huge trees to do that with, but you can do it with smaller trees. And it creates a beautiful silhouette, as you can see. Look, you can.
Beautiful.
George, are you able to accomplish that with low voltage LED today?
Yes, absolutely. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Uh,
How are you doing that?
We've got 36 watt and 50 watt bullet fixtures in LED that are bright enough to penetrate up through the top of a tree. That are almost as bright as, well, they're as bright as 100-watt mercury vapor, even brighter. So we're able to do it. Not quite as bright as this, but yeah, it can easily be done. And we have some of the larger rectangular fixtures, 100-watt, 150-watt LEDs in soft uplights in some of these huge trees that will work quite well. techlightUSA.com has them, and we can definitely do that.
Okay,
It's a
low
it's
voltage.
in low volt. The 150 watts, I don't think so. I think they're line voltage, but up to 50 watt, definitely 12 volt.
Okay.
For most cases, that's all you'd ever need to do it. And what I actually had to do, instead of using some of the heavier duty rectangular floods, I just used more of the bullet fixtures. And I can do actually a nicer job with it. I had to learn the technique all over again.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Fire.
All right. Let's see if there's any. Oh, there is a couple more. Most of you have seen, well, not most, some of you have seen this image. Again, another corridor or a side transitional area, which again, it's fun to show these softer effects.
Yeah, I really like this too. I like these bollards, you know, that create these shadow patterns. I really like those a lot. And they're using the walls of the brick to reflect back as a reflector. It's a great technique.
Yeah. And
No
then
visible lights
they've
were
got that
starting.
silhouette. Yep. Sorry, George, keep going.
No, that's just a good technique. I mean,
Yeah.
And this is a more commercial, I would imagine this is a more commercial application. So you want as few lights in the way to get messed up and tripped over and the landscapers to deal with as possible. And they've done that. I mean, this is, it's very clean. It's very low maintenance. This is very good. You can see the hot spots that we were talking about because they put the hot spots low on the bricks. Had you brought them back a little bit and up further, you wouldn't have had the hot spots. But the hot spots are what's reflecting back to give you the light on a lot of light on the pathway. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Very nice. Here's another one that again, like a pass through, or a corridor, if you want to call it, even though it's just the stairway. But because of the trees and the surroundings, you know, it feels like it's confined in through there, which is nice.
where are they lighting the steps from? It's done really well.
Yeah, down lighting. Yep, through there.
The
So
whole thing, it's done beautifully.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Really nice.
And see, guys, see where it's not all lit. Even the left side is not all lit. The right side's not all lit. You go from darker to lighter to darker. It's done very evenly. It's really, it's been well thought out. That's really well done.
Yeah. Add that contrast. Yeah, otherwise, if it's all the same, then it starts to blend together and become more bland.
Yeah. It leads you right up the upstairs. You want to walk up there.
Yeah.
It's really, really well done.
Yeah, I love how the lighting at the base of the steps, and then it leads to different parts of the steps lit different ways. Like George said, it really I want to go up it.
Yeah.
If it were all lit the same, it almost could work against it. So I think.
Well, and look at this here too. If you, as you climb, you reach this level here, and then it's hard to see. there's a little seat bench here.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
you can see the lantern right next, so it's nice. It's more
Yeah.
subdued and romantic in this space, not as bright, which is nice.
Now, something else, Mark, see
Yeah.
the two hot spots? Can you, their
Yeah.
lights are overlit. Well, one of the first things you could do is know that in advance and do a little plant surgery. And just by cutting the one on the right, you could actually take that one piece off on the right. It looks like a white flower or something. You could cut that off and that light would be invisible. And then you could do almost the same thing over there, even if you had to cut that bush or relocate the bush. Take that hot spot away and make it perfect. That's how I kind of think about it.
And
Right.
George, isn't sometimes it about perspective of where people are seeing things the most from, right?
Absolutely, yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's all about that.
Right.
What's
And
the
this is
main
one
view?
vantage point? Sure. Very nice.
Yeah, very, very nice.
All right.
You're very, yes.
So that's that.
Oh, that's it?
That's it on.
Oh, come on.
Oh,
Bring it
boo.
on.
I need 10 more pictures.
Yeah.
This was
Well,
fun.
let me stop sharing that. Let's come back to our master screen. Okay, there we go. All right. Well, does anybody have any final comments? We're ending it here, but again, in these mentor group studies, what we plan to do with this, which is beautiful, is we have a couple, experienced guys in this group that we try to attend everything we can, and then we throw out these concepts to you so that you can see, but ask questions. We're going to have several design topics coming through this mentor group, which that's my personal favorite. I love this design topic the most out of everything. So again, if you have ideas or suggestions, things that you'd like to see, how would you do this? Let me know or send me a text or an email, and then we'll get it on our series here so that we can go run through it. It'd be a lot of fun.
Or take a picture of it and
Yeah.
send it to Mark and we'll talk about it.
I mean, we could do that too. Maybe people show examples, like if you have jobs that you're working on or potential problem on a job, and say, how would you guys do this? We could spend 15, 30 minutes and we could each give our input and run through ideas and options to help. So that's the goal here. It's again to help benefit designers so they can do bigger and better work. So any other final thoughts? Anybody want to throw in anything?
Yeah, it's been awesome. Thanks. I learned a lot just on this one call.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, Mark, thank you for inviting us, man. This is invaluable. Just hearing the pros and George talk about how he looks at things. Love it. Can't wait for the next one.
Good. Awesome.
Mark, you're always the best. Okay. So, George, can I ask you a question? Are you related to the George Winterling weather forecaster in Florida?
In Jacksonville?
Yes.
No, and then that son of a gun. I called him when he was alive.
He's passed away now. He's
Yeah.
gone.
A couple times, and say we have the same name, and he always competed with me online. To he had the news station.
Oh, sure.
And
50 years, Yeah.
Oh yeah, he never would call me back.
Come on, man.
Wow.
And it was like, really? And I don't know whether he thought I was a joke or what, but he would. I knew he didn't because he knew I was online.
Right. Yeah.
And no, I'm originally my family's originally from the Baltimore area, the Maryland area.
Okay.
And I think there's a New York group, and that was where he was from.
Right. Just had to ask, okay, because you're in Florida as well. So,
Yes, I'm down in Stuart, Florida, just north of West Palm.
Yeah.
You're just north of me, George. I'm in Delray.
Are you in Delray?
Yeah,
Oh my God. Well, lunch.
absolutely. I'd love to.
Give me
All
a
right,
like
guys.
I'll come down and join you guys.
Love to have that too, John.
Best weather of the year. It's true. It's been tremendous down here.
Oh,
It has actually.
I'd
Very
like
I
to
just
say
wanna
a
say
couple
thank-
words in
Oh.
closing, if I could, Mark. Tyler, look forward to your participation.
Sure.
Know you're going to sign up for my class. You're muted. Looking forward to you being unmuted so I can hear your voice.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
There
yeah.
we go.
Love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Tyler is a young gun in our community, 20 years old, and he has a passion for lighting design. Cannot wait to see how he flourishes. Then we've got Olin down in north of Atlanta. You've been quietly following along, and I see you unmuted yourself. Look forward to yeah, thank
Finally.
you. Look forward to you being a part of our community. And this
Absolutely.
community is going to grow because it has great roots, which is Mark and a couple others. So thank you all so much for being on this call, man. So cool to have the young and the mid-aged. Olin, sorry, I don't mean to call you mid-aged, but you are.
It's all good.
Yeah.
You too,
As
Chris.
we-
I learned a lot from you when we were in Sterling and Danville. So don't cut yourself short.
Oh, I'll always cut myself short because I'm no teacher. I can teach a couple things, but design is not one of them, which is why I'm so thankful to be a part of Mark's class.
Oh,
Thank you,
stop.
Mark, for doing this.
Well,
Love you
like I
so
say,
much.
everybody has value here, and I'm whether you're brand new or you're 40, 50 years in, doesn't matter. Everybody brings a different perspective, and everybody can get involved and talk, and we're all going to learn more. So it's a good thing. So I appreciate
Awesome.
thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thanks,
I
Mark.
don't know
Thanks,
if
guys.
Josh is still here or if he's gone. I just see a name, so.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. All right.
He's there.
Hello, Josh. Good to see
Hey
you.
guys, sitting in a truck, so it's dark here. You wouldn't be
Oh,
able to
there
see
you
me
go.
anyway.
That's
All
okay.
right.
That's okay. Well, hey, God bless you all. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thanks,
Good
guys.
night.
Thank
All right,
you
we'll
guys.
see
Appreciate
ya.
everybody.
I'll
Thank
be-
you for everything.
All right,
Thank
I'll
you.
be in touch.
Have a great night.
all right, love you.
Love you. Love you guys.
Love everybody.
Yeah, there you go.
Take care.
Hey, Olin, do you still have your deer running around? I saw that picture earlier.
She came by this afternoon to visit for a little while.
Oh, good. Awesome.
She's still hanging out.
Gonna be your pet.
She is definitely a pet.
That's awesome. Hey,
Great
well,
time.
thank you for being part of this. I hope
Absolutely.
this helped you can see some of what we're doing here, and it's only gonna get bigger and better. So it's
That's great. I really appreciate it.
yeah, no worries. All right.
Look
We'll talk
forward
to
to
you soon.
connecting in the future. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, bye.